Hey everybody, you're watching Cole the Corn Star. Ladies and gentlemen, today's a super big day. We are going to be pouring concrete in the underground movie theater. Hey Presley, have you ever poured a basement before?
No.
Hey Zach, have you ever poured a basement before? Hey Roman, have you ever poured a basement before? Yes. Hey. Ricardo, have you ever poured a basement before?
Never. This is my first time.
Cooper, have you ever poured a basement before?
Yeah, I poured these walls.
Oscar, have you ever poured a basement before?
All the time.
Hey Cole, have you ever poured a basement before? Oh, well, no, this is going to be my first time. So for today's pour, we are going to be pouring over the top of some closed cell spray foam insulation with heated floor lines on it, and then we have number 4 rebar, 12 inches on center, both directions. We're going to be pouring approximately 1,800 square feet of concrete. We have 34 and a half yards or so that we are going to be utilizing, and we are going to have a 100% green crew. I've watched a couple YouTube videos on how to do this, so I think we got this in the bag. Pumper truck's here, concrete should be here in about 15 minutes. I'm gonna get my clothes changed, get out of these shorts, get some rubber boots on. We're gonna double check our equipment, and then we're gonna start pouring. All right, we're all changed, got our rubber boots on, got our pants on, long sleeves. We should be nice and protected from splatter. It's supposed to be about 75 degrees today. It's in the low 60s right now. Calm, blue skies, absolutely beautiful day to pour concrete. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not scared to do this. I'm not nervous. I'm kind of like at that right in between. I guess I'm excited to get this pour on the way. And seriously, none of us have poured a basement before, so this is going to be a brand new experience for all of us. We've poured concrete in the past, but usually you have a form on both sides that you can work with to make it level, where here we're gonna be out floating in the middle of the room. So I guess here goes nothing. Concreto está aquí. Priming the pump right now. A bunch of slurry's gonna come out of here. He's also got his cleaner stuff in there, so we gotta get that out. We're just gonna dump it in here because we're gonna be backfilling this later anyway. We're about an hour into our pour. We got the back half done. We are now on the final half, which is the theater room. Take a look, take a look, take a look. D-U-N. Done. It took us about 2.5 hours to get the entire thing poured. I am super pleased with how it turned out. We now need to wait a little while for that to set up so that way we can go down there and finish it, make it nice and smooth and pretty looking. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, we're gonna get all the tools cleaned up and we're gonna grab some food. It's ice cream day today. Double cheeseburger ×2. And what's ice cream today?
Always chocolate.
I'm waiting to eat my ice cream until we get everything completely done, but it has now been a little over 3 hours since we started pouring. I made this little footprint thing here, and we have the ladder screwed to it. So that way this is all tied together. We're gonna now lower this down, so that way we have a nice big pad we can climb down the ladder on, with hopefully without damaging the concrete. And then we're gonna feel its condition, and if it's good enough to go, we're gonna start finishing. Okay, here we go. First test. We're looking for it to sink in about 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch. Looks like we're here at about the perfect time. Hey, have we all waited at least 30 minutes since we've eaten?
No, that's swimming pool rules. Got it.
Oh, that's swimming pool, not finishing concrete. Oh, sorry. I've been running the power trowel for about half an hour now. I've never ran a power trowel in my life. There's definitely a trick to it, but I've got a pretty good start on this room. We're still trying to figure out the right amount of water to dryness. This area, we got fairly good, but over there we got a little bit too wet, and when you get it too wet, you just kind of start kicking the concrete cream around a little bit, so we're definitely learning things. I feel like the floor in that room was pretty flat. We're gonna be working into this room here in a minute. Roman is running the power trowel right now. He's never ran it before either. There's definitely a trick to it when it comes to steering, because you don't steer left and right. You pull up or you push down depending on which direction you want to go. And then sometimes it just has a mind of its own. Back in the day, they would have smoothed out concrete floors with these. So the power trowel is basically just 3 of these that spin really quickly. And then Roman can adjust the pitch on them so he can make them flat, or he can make them tipped up like this. Generally speaking, the greener the concrete, the fresher, the softer, the wetter the concrete, the flatter we have the blades. And then as the concrete gets harder, we start to turn the pitch up on them. Into power troweling, we have everything done except for about 6 feet out from this wall, basically right where that shadow line is. That is just staying wet where that shadow zone is. And then same thing around the corner. So we're just kind of waiting around for that to dry up, and then we'll have everything done. It's been about 20 minutes. I think I'm gonna try to hit this again. See how it's really rough? I tried hitting it with the trowel and it made it just like that, and that's not what we want. When we hit it with the trowel, it should make it nice and smooth, like this. This is basically what we're looking for. While we're waiting for that concrete to dry, let's take a look at how we did on the rest of the pour. Now remember, this was the first time any of us have ever done this, and is it perfect? No, it is not perfect, but the good news is they make a thing called self-leveler, and so we can fix all of the problems that we have, and then also we're gonna have carpet over this, so you're not even going to see a lot of this anyway. So the way I look at this is we just got a really nice practice in. As far as this back room goes, this thing turned out really well. We do have a couple spots where we just have some baby puddles, but that one's gonna be under the staircase, and these other ones can be fixed with self-leveler if we need to. There are a couple spots like this throughout this room where it's a little bit rough. We shouldn't have gone to lunch. We should have jumped in here right away with the power trowel. By the time we got down in here, things were just set up a little bit too much for us to be able to cut into these with the power trowel and get them smoothed out. Our edges are not the most beautiful thing in the world. We did try to mag float them out when we got down in here, and we tried to steel trowel them, but they were just too set up. Now the good news is we're gonna have a framed in wall that's going to go to about right here. So most of that is going to be hidden and we're never gonna be looking at it anyway. Going into the theater room, this doorway turned out perfect, absolutely perfect. The doorway into the bump out turned out awesome. The very edges are a little rough, but once again, those are going to be framed in, so we're not going to see that. The bump out as a whole turned out phenomenally. We did have a little problem there along the back wall. This room was really hard to screed out, so when we were screeding it, we had to do a lot of it by hand and with a 2x4, and you couldn't quite get into some of those areas, or at least not very good. So we have about 6, 7, 8 inches in here that's a little bit on the rougher side because it kind of slopes down just a hair where the power trowel could not get into there. But otherwise, the rest of this room turned out great. And then last but not least, we have the theater room. When we started pouring this room, the concrete was setting up really quickly for some reason. And so we were kind of struggling to get this screeded out. The screed was not wanting to pull through the concrete very well because it was sticking. And we can definitely see some of our screed marks here in the floor. There is a little bit of a low spot right through here, and then it kind of goes up into a high spot in that corner. And then we had to hand finish this area right underneath the ladder because we had to climb out right there. So this area is definitely not perfect, but honestly, I think if we got a couple bags of self-leveler in here, we probably only need to go up about 1/4 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch in the worst spots, just to basically get this spot right here in the middle, lift it up a little bit and flat. Now this back part honestly doesn't really matter at all. This was truly a practice field because we're gonna be building risers to sit on for the underground movie theater. So there's going to be a bottom level, a middle level, and then a top level. So basically everything from my feet back to the wall, that's all going to be under the risers anyway. So it really doesn't matter if it's level or not. It's been about 20 minutes since I last tried this. We're gonna try it again. I probably have the tendency of over cleaning things sometimes, but when it comes to concrete stuff especially, I just like to get it looking like new again when you're cleaning it up, because every time you miss some, it just keeps getting heavier and heavier. And also, I feel like with tools, especially in vehicles, if they're clean, people treat them a lot better. While I was getting this cleaned up, Dad and Zach have been busy. They put water down on the concrete, and then they took these big tarps that we had, and they laid them down, and now Zach is watering the tarps so that way it puts a little bit of weight on them, and then hopefully the wind won't go in there and blow them out.
I think a cat got on that plastic and might have peed a little bit. It reeks.
I tell you what, I'm gonna sleep like a rock tonight. If you're a concrete man or a concrete woman, hats off to you, because that is some serious work. And speaking of concrete people, if my calculations are correct, we should have saved anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 by doing this pour ourselves. It has now been about 24 hours since we poured. I'm gonna check underneath this plastic, make sure everything's still damp, and if it's not, we're gonna re-water it. And then we're just not gonna do anything. We're gonna let it sit and do its thing. Before even jumping down there, I can see that our plastic over here is missing, so I'm just gonna water this down quick before we jump down in there, and then we'll get the plastic laid out. Looks like there's a hole in the plastic right there. You can see the dark gray. That is the nice moist areas where the tarp stayed intact, which is what we want. That back corner looks like it blew off. So I'm gonna set some stuff around here too to make sure that this does not happen again. I want this to stay covered for a few days in a nice damp environment. Not having enough clear tarp to do this corner, so I ended up finding a couple and tossed them over here. And then I took a bunch of little pieces of scrap wood we had laying around, and I laid them all around the edges to hopefully be able to hold the tarps in place. The areas where they didn't move, they stayed nice and damp underneath, but it only takes about 10 minutes of being exposed to open air to dry up. So hopefully this works. According to ChatGPT, if we can keep the concrete nice and moist for the next 2 weeks, we will get much better curing results. But they said we could get away with a week, so we're gonna try to do at least a week. But if the weather holds out nice for us and we're not needing to work down there, we're gonna try to keep it moist for 2. I'm now going to do some crop scouting. We're gonna look at some cornfields and we're gonna look at some bean fields and see how they are progressing along. And we're gonna be starting with the field around my parents' house. The field around my dad's was the second field we planted. This is a 113 day. It's gonna take about 2,800 growing units to raise this crop to full maturity, and we've received about 200 so far. But as we can see from behind me, we can grow it really nicely. As far as size goes, it's about as tall as my fingers are long, and in about 2 weeks, it's gonna be as tall as my knee, and in about 6 weeks, it's gonna be over 8 feet tall. This year, my brother and I ended up running 12-hour shifts and the tractor planting corn, so we ended up getting everything planted in about 2.5 days. So all of our corn looks pretty much the exact same size. So what I'm doing right now is basically an early season evaluation of our fields. I'm just looking to see, is there anything that looks out of the ordinary? The first thing I look at is weed control. We should just see rows of corn. If we see any green between the rows, that means we have some weed problems. Generally speaking, weeds start at the edge of the field and then work their way in. So I like to look on the edges first. Like right here, we got a little baby weed, little baby weed right there, little baby weed. And just like the corn, these things are gonna start growing about 1 inch a day. So they may be this big today, but in a couple days, they're gonna be this big. And once they get bigger than this, they get really hard to take care of. So we're actually going to be needing to come into this field in a couple days and control these weeds. Out here in the middle of the field, however, I am not seeing anything. This looks really clean. Next up, I am looking at the rows to see how far apart our corn plants are. This is about perfect. We should have one every 5.5 inches. Overall, I'd probably give this field a 85% when it comes to our spacing. I'm seeing quite a few areas like this where there is no plant at the 5.5 inch point, so this would be called a skip. And then every now and again, I'm running into doubles, which is basically 2 corn seeds that were planted pretty much right on top of each other. The planter that we have only likes a certain size of seed. If they're a little bit too big or a little bit too small, we either get a ton of skips or we get a ton of doubles. And this year, about half the seed that we had, our planter liked, and the other half it did not like. So we're definitely going to be seeing some more fields that have this same skips and doubles issue, and it's something that we need to address going into the future because these skips and doubles are costing us money, but it's also really expensive to upgrade a planter as well. And then for our last thing, we are going to dig up a plant. Oh yeah, that's nice and soft. Wow, that's what we like to see. Beautiful. By digging up the plant, we can then evaluate the roots. We want to see a bunch of hairs on them, which these have. We want to make sure these top roots are nice and spread out, so that way we know we don't have a compaction problem underground. So these ones look really good. And then if we look right here in the middle, you can actually see the seed that we planted. And then last but not least, I am evaluating the individual plants. I'm looking at their color, just making sure that they look like normal corn. Basically anything that doesn't look like this is what I'm looking for. Next up, we are jumping right across the road over to Mount Everest, and you can see the peak right there on the horizon. Stepping out of the driveway into Mount Everest, I immediately notice a problem. This area has been wet my entire life, and it has already flooded out. As we can see, our stand here is really bad because this has just been soggy. We need to get field tile in here to be able to take care of this problem, but you notice this one immediately. Just look at how much weaker the corn stand is right here. We have a plant every 12 inches because the rest, well, they died. By the way, Mount Everest is going to be the first field that we plan on pattern tiling, and we plan on doing it this fall. Double, 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 skip. I think we could call this a triple. I'm definitely seeing a lot more doubles over here. Some skips, more doubles. I guess if you had to pick one, I'd rather have doubles than skips. Let's look good. There's my parents' house. Those terraces are Mount Everest, and we are now at the other end. We're gonna be checking out the Hanson farm, and then right across the creek right here, we have the Bush farm. Double, skip, triple. Got a double right there. We got a skip right there. Got one that's behind right there. Got a skip on the other side of it. Some spots look pretty good. It could just be the area that I'm in, but definitely seeing quite a bit of double and skips over here. I went more along the edge of the field on this one, so I could be in a green cart path or something, but on this plant that I dug, we only have one that's pretty hairy. The other ones don't have a lot of hairs on them, but the big roots look good. And then it looked like coming out of the ground, something went on. It has a little curve in it. The soil seems a little bit harder right here, a little bit harder to, never mind. We'll try digging another one here. Oh, try not to break it. We got the same thing going there. Very possible we were on a green cart path over there. Dug one up here in the middle of the field. This one looks pretty good. Bush farm, man, look at that. That's the best looking one I've seen yet. Spacing is not perfect, but it does look pretty good. For this next farm, I am really excited because I did a soil fertility correction on this field, and this is the first time that it's been corn since we did the soil correction. So this is going to be a first look. I invested about $12,000 into this farm. I honestly don't expect to see any results right now. The results are going to be in the yield, but it is going to be interesting to see if we see anything different. A rock down there. I honestly don't see a difference, but it looks good. I just got back from looking at all of the cornfields, and at this time, with the corn being this tall, this is the best looking corn crop I have ever seen on our entire farm. Now, granted, the corn's only this tall, and we have a ton of growing season still to go, so there's a lot that can happen. But at this time, the pieces are there. We have the potential for a really good crop. And then next up, we have soybeans. This year, our soybeans are a little weird because we have some fields that had tillage done on them, and then we had other ones, like the field I'm standing in right now, where we just planted into last year's residue. So this would be a no-till field. And then on top of that, all of our no-till fields did not get a pre-emergent put on them before the soybeans came out of the ground because the weather was not cooperating with us, and some of our tillage fields did. So we have tillage fields, we have no-till fields, and then we have fields that got a pre-emergent, and then fields that didn't. As far as the bean fields go, we're basically looking at the exact same thing as the corn fields. This is a no-till field, and it's starting to get pretty fuzzy between the rows. We have a giant ragweed right here. We'll just cut him down while we're here. And then all these other little ones are water hemp. And then we even have a buttonweed right there. We have a 30-inch soybean planter, so from this row to this row is 30 inches, and we should have a soybean plant about every 1.5 inches. Compared to a tillage field, no-till fields look pretty ugly, but if you look in through the trash, you can see the beans. They're coming, but it just looks a little ugly right now because they're all intertwined up in the trash. But if you look down the row, you can definitely see them. Oh. All right, let's dig some of these up. When it comes to the soybean plants, we're looking for very similar things to the corn, but slightly different. The main thing I'm looking at is this root. I want to see that thing dropping straight down. It shows that it grew without problems. This one's got a little curve to it, but it's not bad. It's going straight down, so that's what we want to see. And then the next thing I'm looking for is little balls that are on this stem. There's one right next to my fingernail right there. Those are nodules, and those nodules fixate nitrogen from the soil, which allows these soybean plants to make their own nitrogen. So the fact that we're already seeing them when we got these little beans, that's a good thing. As far as the soybeans go in this field, I'm liking what I'm seeing. As far as the weeds go in this field, I'm not liking what I'm seeing. All of these water hemp plants can produce 100,000 seeds apiece, and there's about 500 of them right here in this little circle, and they are all over. So we need to be making weed control on this field priority number one. I'm not going to go too wild on the soybean evaluation. Corn starts with 100% of its yield, and then every time something bad happens to it, yield gets taken away. Where soybeans basically start down here, and then as things happen through the growing season, they start to build yield. So with these being so small right now, it's really hard to tell much of anything. The main things I'm looking at are, do we have weeds? This is a tillage field that had a pre-emergent on it, and it is nice and clean. It also looks a whole lot prettier. The other thing I'm looking at out here is, do we have a good stand of soybeans? I'm looking for a final stand of 80,000 plants per acre. So if we marked off 17 feet 5 inches and counted all of the plants, as long as we have at least 80 of them, we are in the clear. And then when it comes to spacing in soybeans, ideally I'd like to have them be this far apart, not this far apart, but you get that in some places, you don't get that in others. Like right there, we have a double, we have some bigger gaps. Our planter does not have the capability to get this spacing perfect every time. So it is kind of what it is, but it's definitely not as impactful having these spaces or these close ones as it is in corn. It's still really beneficial in soybeans to have them spaced out, but corn is extra sensitive to it. These soybean plants, especially when they have a gap right here, they'll be able to spread out more into this area and kind of eat up this space and have more real estate to put on more soybeans and bigger soybeans. As for how the soybeans are doing, it's really hard to say right now because we basically only have a visual, and the visual doesn't tell the full story. I think they look pretty good, but we can have ugly soybeans do well. The main metric that I can track right now is planting date. Generally speaking, the earlier that we plant under good conditions, the better the soybeans do. This year we had really nice planting conditions, and we planted the earliest we have ever planted. So I guess just like the corn, the foundation right now is there for a really good soybean crop. Okay, now that we have our concrete poured and it's doing its curing thing and we have our crop scouted, I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna hang out with the boys and we're gonna have some fun. So this is all we got for today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.